growing internally to realize that God's only going to speak to you inside. He's not going to speak to you outside.
That's right.
He speaks to you on the inside, and that's what I am so appreciative about God. Because as humans, we search for joy in all the wrong places. I want you just to consider that for a moment this morning. The problem is we're looking outside when we should be looking inside. And this path that we're talking about to joy-filled life, this whole idea of actually being able to walk through all of these storms and all of these hits that we take, it's so close. And it's so obvious that inside is the last place that we look. Many times that's the last place that we will go. We search everywhere but within. And listen to what Paul says. Again, I want to read this, and I want to go back to the opening for just a minute. In 1 Thessalonians 5:16 through 18. Because I've got something I want to say about joy and how to be joyful always. When we think about this, rejoice always. How do you do that? How do you pray continually? And how do you give thanks in all circumstances? And how do you know that this is God's will? He told us it's His will, that it's only in Christ Jesus that we're able to see this. So I want to have you consider this. It's hard to be joyful always. As a human, it is. And if you're living, when you think about some of our lives, and I know where I live, you've got to really stay up above, because sometimes I feel like that I'm living in an armpit. Because I've just got bad stuff around me all the time. I've got helicopters, I've got gunshots, I've got people crashing, I've got just so much with the homeless population, how they treat each other, just everything that we have. You can really feel like that. How in the world can you be joyful in all of this? But we need to all have a sense of humor, because that's what cheers us up. I mean, I wish that some of you would get more of a sense of humor. I wish that you would laugh more. I wish that you would see that this is what cheers us up. And God invented serious rules about right or wrong, yes. But He also invented happiness, laughter, and humor. Would you agree? God's the one that He actually invented this. So how do you stay joyful when times are tough? How can you do that? Well, you have to make the decision to be thankful and positive no matter what happens. That's what verse 18 says. You have to concentrate on it. And you have to choose to look at the bright side of everything that hits you. And it doesn't mean you ignore negative, bad stuff. I'm not asking you to do that today. Don't walk out here and say, you hear that guy in there, he said, just ignore it. All the negativity and all the bad stuff, just ignore it because it doesn't really exist. Yes, it does exist, but you cannot concentrate on it. It's just when you see bad situations, you choose to believe God can change negatives into positives. Can you say negatives into positives today? So when you develop this kind of life, others will want to be around you because you always leave them with don't you want to leave people with a smile? And this is what happens. This is what happens when you begin to think and live this kind of life that's on the inside and not on the outside. So this is the secret, and Paul is telling us, and it doesn't mean that our lives are perfect. Who could claim that today? Can anybody in here say, my life is perfect? I'm not going to raise my hand because my life is far from perfect. And what may be good for me may not be good for you. You may not be satisfied with what I'm satisfied with. And vice versa. So we have to understand that it's there. We just have to tap into it. And it doesn't even mean that you have to have a great life right now. You don't have to be living a great life right now. What it does mean is this, that you trust God with everything you have. Everything you have, everything that you ever will be, and everything that God has you on a path of, you have to trust Him. You have to say, even in a negative situation, you may have a reconciliation that you are praying for, and it may never look like it's going to happen. But you have to trust God that He has something for you way better than the reconciliation. See, we get so single-track minded about that we take our whole life and we wrap it around that reconciliation, that person, until that person is totally controlling our life, so that we never actually get to the place that God wants us to get to, because we have a one-track mind and we don't know that that is not your whole life, that person. That job is not your whole life. to reinvent yourself, God is going to take you to places that you never even dreamed of. He's going to take you somewhere. And not everybody's going to be able to go on the journey with you. You're going to have a lot of people that are your friends. I can tell you this. I've lived long enough to know this, that a lot of people you're going to have to, you're not going to leave them behind, but they're never going to get it, and they're going to stay in their wallow, they're going to stay in their negativity. Everything they say is just going to be coming out of an exterior circumstance, and they're not going to ever go inward. So you can't hang around them too long. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
You can't stay back there and say, well, I'll hang with you as long as you're negative, because
I'm out.
I'm going to put that on hold where God wants me to go, because I'm going to sit right over here with you, and woe is me. We're just going to sing sitting on the dock of the wasting time. Just wasting time. I've got nothing to live for. It looks like nothing's going to come my way. You ever heard that song by Otis Redding? I heard that as a kid, and I kept seeing myself, because I used to drive by the San Francisco Bay all the time. And I used to see this guy sitting out there on the dock, singing, sitting on the dock of the bay, waves of the town. Looks like nothing's going to come my way.
Oh.
I could have 10 people tell me, but I guess I'll remain the same. You know those lyrics? And I thought, how sad. How sad that this guy has got himself in a thinking pattern where he's going to sit on that dock the rest of his life. And I'm challenging you today, get up off that dock. Begin to see.
Move.
Begin to reinvent yourself and begin to see what God is saying. And don't just lock it up into some scripture and say, well, that's just a scripture he wants me to memorize. Start to take it internally. Start to take and be a one-track mind thinker. And if it's not the way that God thinks, I'm not going to think that way anymore. If it's the way that I think, I'm not going to think that way anymore. I'm only going to think the way that God thinks. And you will see a paradigm shift that's going to change everything about everything that you do. Joy is infectious. Do you realize that?
Yes, sir.
And when you look at this, if you don't believe it, hang around somebody that's negative and not thankful about much of anything. Go hang around them for a while. But Paul is giving us a pathway to real joy, not an up and down counterfeit joy that comes and goes. I don't want that comes and goes. I hate these people. I don't hate people. That sounds terrible. But see what you do. You get those vernacular things going. You hear people say, I hate things all the time. I have people actually saying, oh, Pastor, he's bipolar. She's bipolar. No, they are not. Not the medical term bipolar. All it is that their thinking is not come around to the point where they're thinking all these things. They're thinking about negative thoughts. They're allowing their mind to be so focused on their circumstances that now they become negative. So what makes them happy is just this external thing, and it only lasts for a minute. And then all it takes is for them just to walk a few more steps, and they're right back into the sadness, right back into the loneliness, right back into that way of thinking again. And then we want to classify them as bipolar. That's terrible. Just because somebody's up and down does not mean that they're bipolar. What it means is they just need to get a hold of the Bible.
That's right.
That's right. See that God has something better for them than just exterior circumstances. Because these exterior circumstances, they come and go, don't they? I mean, have you ever had a fair weather friend? I mean, they're a friend one day, and then when you run out of money, they're not your friend anymore.
Bye-bye.
When you're throwing the party, you're the best guy in the world. But when you now are at home and you're looking for help, then you are not their friend anymore. So don't be this kind of a person that just is on today and down tomorrow, where all it takes is a circumstance to take you out. That's not going to be very effective to be when we're talking about joy being infectious. So in order for us to live and love and influence as God intended us to, we have to deliberately cultivate the Philippians 4:8 kind of mind. And I pray that you are challenged today that as we go through for these next several weeks, the month of November, to give praise, to continually pray, to continually be thankful about everything. Write down all of the things that you know that you can be thankful for today. Can any of you, again, I'm going to keep asking you over the month, can you think of anything today that you can be thankful for? There is so much that we can think about. So when you think on these things, it works like a filter for your thinking. It's just, how many know what a filtering system is? It filters all the impurities out. You know, when you have an automotive car, it has a strong filter on the bottom. All the oil has to run through that. It gets all of the grittiness out so that when it goes through the really sensitive parts of your engine, that it doesn't grind grooves in it and cause your engine to wear out in half the time that it would normally wear out. That's what a filter does. And so you've got to think about this as a filtering system. And if you focus on God, it helps you shut everything else out. You're not in denial, and you may not know it, but your thoughts are showing most of the time. Yeah, let me say that again. You may not know it, but your thoughts are showing most of the time.
Yeah, that's right.
And so you have to filter dirty water, don't you, to make it drinkable?
Yeah.
You don't want to drink the water in my neighborhood.
That's right.
Especially in some of these areas that we are hearing about in the United States. So we all need a thought filter. Yeah. Are you with me today, church?
Yes.
You need a thought filter. What has the water in your mind looked like lately? You can think about your mind and this filtering system and water. What does it look like lately? Is it drinkable?
Yeah.
Is it toxic waste, or is it somewhere in the middle? Is it somewhere in the middle? And only you can know that, because I can't know your thoughts. But if your thoughts are like toxic waste, then it's probably going to show. Somebody comes up and says, "How are you doing today?" You just, and then they look at you and say, "Until I've had my coffee. Until I get into the day a little bit more, then I'll let you know. Right now, just back off, need some quiet time, take this day out." And a lot of people are like grizzly bears. And they growl at you. How many people growl at you? I was at the grocery store the other day, and all I did, we were pushing the baskets, and they were trying to get in front of me, and I said, "Go ahead." And I was nice about it, I'm serious. So I kind of backed off a little bit from the basket because I felt like I was encroaching on their space. I don't know if any of you have had that experience, but it's true. It's real life. I like to take you into the marketplace and tell you what real life things take place. They take place. Most of the people have thinking that's like a toxic waste.
Yeah.
And that's why they growl at you. That's why they don't have good days. They have more bad days than they have good days. You can have almost every day a great day if you will begin to think on these things. If you will use this filtering system, then you will not be an emotional person. Some people say, "Mike, you're just not emotional." No, you have no idea how emotional I am. But my emotions are based on the things of God. They are not based on the circumstances. Because people say, "You have no feeling. How do you just go like this all the time?" It's not me. It's because I am constantly one track mind. I'm thinking about this. I'm meditating on it. And the moment that I get a bad thought about anybody, I immediately say, "Well, how would God think?" I'm serious. I say, "How would God think about this? What would He say? What would He do in this circumstance?" And you know what shuts me down 99% of the time? It shuts me down. I used to be not so good about it. I would open my mouth. I don't know if any of you are with me right now. But I would open my mouth and be so sorry, and I couldn't take back the words I said. I had to go back. Sometimes I did it in a day. Sometimes it took me 3 days. I finally would say, "God, you're right. You're right, God. And I ask you to forgive me for the way that I talked. I should have never even said that. I should have never even talked that way. Those words should have never even come out of my mind. God, help me to filter this so that from now on, I am disciplined, and I only say what's going to build up, and I only talk about things that are going to make people see the future of their life, and only talk to them in a way where they can see there's something greater than the way that they're living right now, and not to preach at them, and not to make them feel like that they are less than me, but to take them and lift them up and say, "Grab a hold, brother, grab a hold, sister. Let's lift each other up, and let's walk and become infectious in this joy." So that this house right now would be so full that you couldn't even get anybody in here, because they'd all be coming in and they'd be getting their minds renewed instead of a bunch of religious junk where people walk around and do something different. They say they love Christ, but they're like when Jesus said, why do you save the best seats for the ones that smell good and the ones that are all up in their stature and they're educated, and you put the ones that are the least back in the back row and you don't even pay attention to them? That's what Jesus taught. We need to take the ones that come in and the way that society places them on the bottom of the row. We need to say, come in, brother, come in, sister.
Yes.
Because you are welcome in this place. But it's not because we're better than you, it's because we love you and we truly want to see you reach your destiny. We want to see you rise up and get your thinking straightened out so that now you will believe in what God says about you instead of what the church is saying about you. I believe that this church is headed in this direction. I believe as long as God lets us be here, that we are headed in this direction. And I think that God is going to deliver this city. This city may look like it's in darkness. It may look like it's over. There are people that are leaving by the thousands. They're going to move to other cities because they say they want to be somewhere that's nice. What's that? It's all in the thought process. So you have to believe that God has great plans for your life, regardless of what's happening right now.
Yes.
What happens when you have a constant thought life of right thinking? What happens? Right thinking, Bible thinking, what God says. How does he talk about this? Here's what happens. Your root system will begin to firmly attach itself to the nature and character of God. It'll get so firmly attached, it'll grow so deep, and there'll be such a taproot that'll go down into the inside things of God that go inside of you, that no matter what hits you, you'll be praising God. When you have calamity strike, like Paul when he was in prison, I love that. I just ate on that all week long, Pastor Wayne. I so much appreciated that message. When Paul and Silas were in there, they were so infectious with joy. For some of you that weren't here, they were praising and worshiping God, and it reached throughout the whole prison so that it was so infectious, all of them got saved. They all were infected by the joy instead of the circumstance that hit Paul and Silas of being locked up in prison, and it wasn't pretty. They had their root system so deep down into the nature and the character of God that all they could do is praise. I think it's just praise. Praise God, I lost my job. You must have a better one for me. Praise God, my car just blew a rod through the side of the block. Praise God, he must be giving me a new car somehow. Praise God, that bum finally left me that I've been trying to kick out for years because he's been bringing me down. He won't marry me. He won't pay the bills. Praise God, he left. You got something better for me, Lord. I know I just stepped on some toes just now. You got to make up your mind as to how you're going to spend the rest of your life. How you want to spend the rest of your life? You want to think on these things, or you want to just be in that place where you never get to where God actually wants you to get because you cannot get your thinking out of the way that you think. So I'm so excited about the month of November because I got some stuff to download on you over the next several weeks. I'm just excited that it's going to turn some of you around, and you won't be running around and calling your friends bipolar anymore. You're going to say, no, you're not bipolar. You just need to have your mind renewed. You just need to have your mind reworked. That's all you need. Almost everything that happens to us is good or bad, isn't it? Come on. Everything that happens to us is good or bad with a single thought. And I'm wrapping this up right now. Let me tell you something about what I was reading last week. Neuroscientists can now demonstrate that every thought sends an electrical and chemical signal throughout your brain, and it actually ultimately affects every cell in your body. Did you hear that? Can you imagine that thoughts can influence your sleep patterns, your digestive tract, your pulse? Your thought life, the thoughts you have, can actually increase your pulse. You could be sitting there and your pulse can be 60, and the doctor walks in and he's getting ready to give you the report that he took weeks ago that you've been waiting for, and you are so, your thought life is racing, saying, he's going to tell me I've got terminal cancer, he's going to tell me I'm going to die, and all of a sudden your heart rate from 60 goes up to 80, you begin to sweat, you perspire, you start to shake, you feel in the pit of your stomach like something bad is going to be delivered.